Hi everyone. Today, let us try to understand what are called free softwares as part of our informatics lessons. We have come across with a lot of free softwares by way of learning Linux operating systems. There is a special movement known as free software movement under a foundation called Free Software Foundation. Now, there are many definitions released by these foundations to establish what it actually means by a free software. As given in our textbook, a free software is something that can be used, studied, and modified without restriction, and which can be copied and redistributed in modified or unmodified form, either without restriction or with minimal restrictions. So, it is easier for us to share free softwares to our colleagues because it can be used without giving basically any fee or price for it. There are no particular charges made when there are copyright softwares available. Say it is actually illegal to share copyright materials or softwares, but whereas free softwares can be used and can be studied, modified without any restriction. It can be copied and given redistributed to our friends. We can again make changes, modifications to the softwares, etc. So basically, these softwares are distributed as free softwares, and there are some source codes which are inbuilt into these free softwares, which are actually human readable form of the program. Okay, so the source codes can be edited, modified without any restriction. So such softwares are generally addressed to be free softwares. Of course, we have seen this fellow Richard Stallman. So Richard Stallman is the behind the Free Software Foundation. The whole idea of free software was conceived by Richard Stallman in 1983, and he founded the Free Software Foundation in the year 1985. His idea was to have an organizational structure to propose the whole idea behind free software. Of course, there is a tight competition in the commercial market today. So, in the capitalist era, there are many commercial products available, and in order to compete with those commercial products, so there is a contra developmental stage advocated by free software movement, and Richard Stallman stands there as the founder of free software foundation. Now, besides this term free software, there are many other alternative terms used for softwares which are freely distributed or modified. So these terms came into use in the years in 1998. So other terms commonly known for free softwares are soft libre. So libre has many coinages. So the word libre refers to freedom. So free software. Or another term, technical term is FOSS, FOSS, free open source software. Another term for free software is FLOSS, FLOSS, free, liberal, and open source software. So there are some other softwares than free softwares, which are called proprietary softwares or non-free softwares, which are not free softwares. Proprietary softwares are very often commercial softwares, and we have a contrastive relationship with free softwares as well as proprietary softwares. Commercial softwares may be either free software or proprietary software, so there's a possibility of becoming a free software even though there are commercial softwares in the market. And there is an example for a commercial free software, that is Red Hat Linux operating system. Linux, as we know, is an operating system which is freely distributed amidst its users, and it can be modified, redistributed. And this operating system, Red Hat, is actually an example for commercial free software. So there are softwares which does not require a payment for use, is called freeware, which are not free softwares. Freewares does not demand any payment for its use, but its source code cannot be edited. Freewares and its authors, copyright holders, retain all the rights associated with the modification and redistribution of freewares. So these are some of the terms which come under the discussion of free softwares. Now we have a formal definition given by Richard Stallman, and this was actually published by FSF, Free Software Foundation, in February 1986. Richard Stallman wanted to give a proper idea, orientation to the whole idea of a free software. He defines it as software is free if people who receives the copy have the following four freedoms. They are: number one, to run the program for any process; number two, to study how the program works and change it to make it do what you wish; number three, to redistribute copies so that you can help your neighbors; number four, last, to improve the program and release your improvements to the public. So in a way, we may be perhaps sharing different kinds of files or softwares amidst our own friends. And those things which are freely distributed can be perhaps coming under the definition in terms of free software. And it can be run for any program, for any process. And it can also made use to study how the program works and change it to make it what you wish. So we can perhaps make modifications and additions and redistribute the software as required. So these are number of terms which come under the formal definition of free software founded by Free Software Foundation. Free Software Foundation says free software is the matter of liberty, not price. There is a freedom involved in it. To understand the concept, you should think of free as in free speech, not as in free beer. So here there is complete liberty, freedom given to its users for making modifications as and when you wish for. And in the late 90s, there were new definitions published for free software movement. Other notable free software foundations are Debian Free Software Guidelines, released in 1997, Open Source Definition in 1998, and at last BSD, Berkeley Software Distribution Series. These foundations have actually come ahead of the original Free Software Foundation and come up with the new definitions of what could be addressed as free software. So there are sufficient examples available for free softwares. Basically, many of the Linux platforms, operating systems, and the programs used in it are actually examples of free software. Some of the best known examples are Linux kernel. Linux kernel, as we have already studied, refers to the source code of the operating system Linux, which can be edited, used, redistributed, and modified by the users. And the BSD, the Berkeley, we have referred here, the Berkeley software distribution, and GNU Linux operating system, GNU compiler collection, which is actually an archive of the multiple source codes for the new project, GNU new project, and another program is C library. There is another language is MySQL. These are actually examples of free software. So thank you very much for your kind listening.